and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for having the opportunity to speak about property insurance market. I represent the Insurance Association, being responsible for property section. Kindly ask for your attention for the next 10-15 minutes, where I would like to shortly review the performance of the property insurance market, Romanian property insurance market, going through residential segments, major losses, man-made losses in 2015. Unfortunately, the presentation is in Romanian, but I will try to cover as much as possible. NAT losses, a NAT scenario for the Romanian residential market and projects for 2016. Talking about residential insurance market, some of the figures were already presented in the morning session by Mr. Vrignot, and some other figures I think are already available. I would like to underline the key trends. So the number of compulsory policies is increasing by 6.5%. You have the numbers here. And the gross written premium of PIDE is increasing by 6.5%. The number of facultative policies is decreasing by 2%, and the gross written premium is decreasing by 4%. And there is also a trend in decreasing of the average premium, so the market is softening. As the other speakers were mentioning, the Romanian property market is in general softening, and in particular also the residential market is softening. Why the number of facultative policies was decreasing in 2015? There were several effects. I think some of the impact is coming from the change in the legal environment. There was a change in 2015 in July, which restricted the sales of facultative policies only for customers who already have a PIDE policy, a compulsory policy, plus the bankruptcy or the insolvency of Astra, Astra being the biggest player in the residential insurance. So just to summarize, a decreasing number of facultative policies, increasing number of compulsory policies, but still a low penetration. What do we expect in 2016? This is a rough estimation. We expect to see an increase in compulsory policy, a further increase in compulsory policies, close to 1.8 million policies, but still low as a penetration ratio, and a further decrease in facultative policies due to average premium decrease, softening of the market, plus the effect of the legal changes. This being said about the residential insurance market, I will move to the overall property section, where just two figures I would like to mention. The overall gross written premium was growing by 2%, roughly 1.2% in property insurance. The growth being mainly supported by SME and commercial business, where the growth was around 4%. So overall, the property business in Romania was growing, mainly driven by SME and commercial business, and the residential business was decreasing. What we forecast for 2016 is to see a further growth in the overall portfolio, mainly driven by commercial and SME business. Okay. I will skip over these details. This is a page where we would like to present the reasons why the residential portfolio was decreasing. I was already mentioning some of the reasons. They are mainly related with the legal changes plus the bankruptcy of Astra. Now moving to man-made losses in 2015. We have a list of 4 big losses, which altogether means something like 50 million RON, which is roughly 12 to 13 million euro. All losses were fire losses. I will just go through the occupancies, hotels, food industry, food processing, industrial activity, meaning that we could not get from the member exactly which was the activity, which means probably production or manufacturing, and food processing. So I think as a trend to the previous year, there are more man-made losses in the market, in the property market, and more larger losses than they used to be in the past. And I also used as a reference a study, a document which is published by an official body responsible for the management of, I don't know how to translate exactly in English. It is an official Romanian body responsible also for the fire protection and fire let's say, emergency cases. This study shows that there is an increase in the number of fire losses from 2014 to 2015 of about 30%. The increase occurs also in residential area, but also in commercial and industrial area. So there are two trends. On one side, we see the markets are getting softer. On the other side, we see more fire and larger fire losses on the market. The markets are still profitable. This is good news for the insurer. From the official figures we have from the regulator, combined ratio in property, in this property class of business, seems to be around 70%. We don't know exactly how big it is or how smaller it is in residential and how big it is in commercial property. But that means the business is still profitable, and probably under, let's say, in this equation, we will probably see additional softening of the market. That's about man-made losses. Moving to NAT losses, we have estimated, asking some of the members were kind, and they confirmed the capacity which was purchased in 2015. So based on the information we collected from some of the members, which I have to thank, we have estimated that the whole capacity which is purchased by the Romanian market, whole NAT capacity, it's around 4 to 4.5 billion euro. That includes also residential, includes also PAID, but also commercial. We expect that this capacity will be increased in 2016 if the portfolio will grow, and especially the property portfolio, the commercial and SME portfolio. This portfolio has a larger quake exposure because it doesn't have, let's say, high deductibles like the residential portfolio. And a second important comment I would like to make on these cat losses, we have asked Aon to help the Insurers Association to run a study on the residential portfolio, what it would be the impact of earthquake like in 17/7. And the outcome, which proves more or less, or not proves, confirms or enforces the comments which were made in the previous discussions here, is that, let's say, the amount of loss is expected 6.5 billion. The model, it's the internal model of Aon. So the amount of loss is 6.5 billion, estimated 800,000 cases in residential. Out of only 1.5 billion will be insured, and the rest of 5 billion euro losses only in residential will not be insured. So it means that more than 80% of losses in case of an earthquake like in 77, okay, based on a model, the different model maybe will give different figures, but probably not very different. More than 80% of the losses will not be insured, which means the families which will be under these, let's say, losses affected, they will not have the financial resources to repair or to rebuild their dwellings. And I think with this comment, yes, there are positive trends on the industry, and starting from 5% 7 years ago now to 20% penetration, things are not so bad, but there is, I think, there is still a large amount of dwellings which are not insured, which means that the whole scheme is not really effective, because 80% is too much. That means a lot of burden will be on the state, on the government, if something happens. And the last page, projects for 2016. We are working together with the regulator and some other key stakeholders to review the compulsory insurance law. There are some chapters which need to be adjusted because they create some complexities. And this is also the moment to consider measures to increase the penetration ratio, and either using incentives or more, let's say, measures to constrain, or I don't know, to acknowledge the overall situation to the public and to the government. And there is also another chapter which I think it's very important, if maybe not the most important, which refers to the way we are ready to handle claims if a NAT event like the one in 77 it occurs. This is a statement which I think is shared by some of the major key stakeholders. I think the industry has done things, but there is a lot to do more. A large earthquake will produce a lot of claims, and currently we are not fully ready to handle such a number of large claims. Not even the legal framework, the procedures, they are too complex for such a large claims. We do not use the technology, or we are not yet taking into consideration to use enough the technology in order to be ready for such a case. That would be roughly all. I would just like to summarize a key conclusions. The industry is growing, the property industry is growing, the trends are different in residential and in SME and commercial sector. There are more man-made losses, and that goes, let's say, somehow against the softening of the market. There is a large portfolio of residential clients which is not insured in case of a large earthquake. That means most of the burden is on the customers or on the government. Thank you for your attention.